Welcome to Summit Session number 13. My name is Danielle, and I am the Marketing Director here at Adventure Nannies. We are so happy to have you here with us today. The views expressed today are solely those of the guest and do not necessarily represent the views of Adventure Nannies. Today, we'll be talking about the pillars of conscious parenting, how it can transform your life, and how it can lead to the emotional intelligence of the children in your care. I am thrilled to share a little bit more about our incredible presenter, Sarah Sticklin, who is a certified conscious parenting coach. Sarah is a conscious parenting coach, intuitive energy healer, and spiritual medium. After experiencing the traumatic death of one of her nanny children, Sarah has dedicated her life to helping people heal wounds surrounding connection, trust, and grief. She works with families, children, and adults around the world who are desiring to connect back to their purpose and passion for life. Sarah leads people to inner peace using Eastern wisdom teachings, Western psychology, and intuitive channeling. Sarah combines her clinical experience in behavioral health hospitals, pediatric therapy clinics, and working in homes alongside families to provide a holistic approach to help people create conscious connections and live in alignment. Sarah is best known for helping individuals connect with children and parents who have passed away, as well as providing support to people who are looking for a deeper sense of purpose and direction. Sarah's life work is to remind us that we are all connected on a greater level, and that the trust in this can bring us peace into all areas of our life and work. Without further ado, let's get started. Please join me in welcoming Sarah.
Hi, Danielle. Thank you so much. That is such a wonderful intro. I appreciate you having me here tonight.
We are so glad to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, of course. I want to honor everyone's time as well. So I'm going to do my best to keep this at our hour. I believe that is what we have. Yes, an hour. But if you have any further questions, I'm going to insert a link at the end of all of this where you can sign up to get an email from me and we can connect from there. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. If that's all right with everyone. Let's see. Okay, here we are. Can everyone, let's give Canva a minute here to handle this. Okay, can everyone see this okay? Okay, cool, thumbs up, awesome. So guys, as far as communication goes, I would love to see your faces, but there's no pressure to put your video camera on at any time. You are more than welcome to though. Feel free to use the chat as much as you like to ask questions, to give a comment. I want this to be as interactive as possible, and I'm here to customize this and cater it to exactly what you have going on in your families right now. So if we're talking about something you're like, oh, this really pertains to XYZ, let me know in the chat and we will all learn together in the moment. All right, so as Danielle said, my name is Sarah Sticklin. I am a certified conscious parenting coach. So conscious parenting method is actually something that has been trademarked by Dr. Shefali. She is up in New York. She is one of Oprah's favorites when it comes to parenting. I really, really enjoy her. I would recommend her as a resource for anyone looking to explore parenting or consciousness or East meets West approach. She's wonderful. So I was trained under her actually last year, and that's where my certification comes from. But you can find conscious parenting mentioned by other authors as well. And you may see people also doing conscious parenting as a coaching, but not this particular method. So I think it would be good either way you found it, but that just happens to be where mine is. I am also a Reiki energy practitioner. I have my teaching in that, so certified to teach it. I do energy work with people, and then I'm also a medium, which means I connect people who have passed away. So tonight we are going to be transforming ourselves to empower the children in our care through the teachings of conscious parenting. Overview. So we are going to basically, this is going to be intense, but I know we can keep up. I know you're a fast learning group. I will slow down as needed, but it is going to go pretty fast. So hold on, buckle up. It's going to be good. We got this. We're going to cover a lot of ground though. We are going to go through all the foundational pieces of conscious parenting. Conscious parenting is a really fun parenting method because it is not simple. It is not, if child does A, you respond with B. It doesn't even look at the children, quite frankly. It looks at us as caregivers, and it looks at parents. So this is not going to be a super easy thing I teach you where you feel like tomorrow you just have mastered it. It is constantly evolving and growing and changing with you. So have grace with yourself and patience, knowing this is not super easy concepts we're about to dive into. It is a deep personal transformation experience, and it takes some time and unlearning. A lot of us have learned old traditional paradigm ways of thinking, and this really, really works to shift that. So bear with me as we talk about stuff that may not feel super, super mainstream right now. We're going to be learning about tools, some of my favorites, but some you can also use in your life and in your professional life. We're going to learn how to use this method to deal with difficult work environments. We're also going to cover the stress cycle and burnout. This is something that I know a lot of us struggle with in some capacity in some area of our life. I'm super passionate about it. I think you all do amazing jobs with your families and children. And if you burn out, you can't help anyone, including yourself. So I don't want that, and I'm going to work on helping us learn how to avoid it, and if it happens, how we can heal it. I am a very intentional creature, so I like to think. So I'm going to set some intentions for this. I invite each of you to set your own, whatever they may be. Maybe you hope to get one thing out of this, or you hope to stay open-minded. Those are both my intentions for you. I hope that you remain open during this entire presentation. Just listen to the new ideas, see what you think of them, and then I hope you can leave with one change you can make in your life to improve your work situation, your relationships, and ultimately the children in your care. That's my intention, but I invite you to set one too. My background is very energy based, so I actually want to take this time to just take 30 seconds or so for us each to close our eyes, just settle in, get comfortable wherever you may be. Just see what you hear around you, notice what you're sitting on. Just take a moment to ground yourself. Maybe go ahead and relax your shoulders. Take a breath in through your nose. Feel the stomach expand. And slowly exhale through your mouth. One more breath like that in through your nose. Hold it here. Slowly exhale through your mouth. Wonderful, guys. So that was 15 seconds. Hope you already feel a little bit better, a little more calm and grounded. That's just to show you time, it doesn't have to be a lot that we give ourselves or that we find in our day. It can be the smallest amount, and it can make the biggest impact and biggest difference. Okay, so my story, how I got here, how I have used everything. So when I was young, I described seeing things that others could not see, and things that people could not hear. This happened for a little bit. I went to therapists, I went to doctors, we tried to figure out what was going on with me. We arrived at I'm just empathetic, so I'm just empathetic, and that was kind of left that. I shut the door to that part of my life, and I moved on like normal with everyone else, just going about a typical childhood, more or less. I did get the label of sensitive, which I'm sure I'm not the only one as far as that. And I did struggle though with anger and depression as a child. I was pretty emotional, and would kind of have these up and downs with life. Fast forward to high school, and I was nannying for a family that you will see here. This is Mickey. I was nannying for them my junior year of high school up into college as well. And when Mick was 3.5, I started with him at the age of 1. When he was 3.5, he got diagnosed with neuroblastoma, which is a rare, aggressive pediatric cancer. By the time Mickey was 5, he had battled for 1.5 years and passed away from cancer. So this launched me into finding my own holistic way of healing and caring for the world. Up until this point, I would say I had a very traditional path of life. Everything was very structured and I had everything planned out to the T. I thought it was quite a pretty plan, if I do say so. Obviously, that did not all work out. And I explored Reiki as a form of healing. And from there, my mediumship, which was that childhood gift that I never really knew how to access, really opened up. And I began hearing and seeing people who had passed away, but in a way now that was therapeutic and helping people I was working with. So ultimately why I care about this. And for me, whys are important. And I invite you tonight and throughout the week to really ask yourself why. Why do you do what you do? Why do you care about the children you work with? Why do you care about the planet as a whole? So for me, life is super short and precious. And I learned that with Mickey. And I know I'm not the only one who's experienced death in some capacity. I also know that we can't take away from others' experiences in this lifetime due to our own limits and our own wounds, which unfortunately happens a lot. As caregivers or adults, we are in the position of power and authority often. And with that, we have the potential to take away from other people's experiences, especially younger people and little children or anyone. Basically, we feel like there's a hierarchy going on. Whenever we can have control as humans, we typically try to do that. And I decided I don't want to be that way. I don't want to do it that way. I don't really care for it that way. And I don't think I'm the only one either. So as far as training, I was trained under Dr. Shafali. I was also a pediatric therapy assistant for a long time. I worked as a behavioral health technician in peds. I nannied for children with different psychiatric diagnosis, and I received my bachelor's of arts from UNC Wilmington here in North Carolina. And that was in recreation therapy and psychology. So I need you all to do a little favor for me, a little exercise here. I want you to close your eyes again, or just think back, preferably close your eyes. I think that helps us concentrate the most. And I want you to think about who you were when you were younger. What did you love to do? What were you interested in? What do you remember making you happy? Most importantly, how would people have described you? The younger you can think for this, the better. So really go back in time here. Picture your little self. This is me, in case you were wondering what child I found. This was me. So once you've done that, I want you to think of that early experience in your life, but now I want you to pull up a time you were not seen, heard, understood, or loved. You don't have to tell me why. You don't have to go in detail. This doesn't need to be a traumatic experience. This can be something super simple that you experienced or a time you were shut down, any of that. So go ahead, close your eyes, try to recall that time or event or period. Maybe it's a person who often did this to you. So when you can picture that event, I want you to notice within it who was with you, how did they respond to you, how did you feel because of this response, what do you wish they would have done, and what did you really need in that moment? Beautiful, guys. So once you've done that, once you've seen that trauma that occurred, you can slowly open your eyes. So in the most basic form, guys, this is where a need was not met. You had a need, you needed to hear something or feel something or be reassured about something. It didn't happen. Because of this, an inner wound got made and more than likely went unhealed, right? So it happened, there was no processing of this, and then you moved along. And then probably something similar to this happened again in your life, and you moved on. This kept happening until that wound is now safely stored somewhere in your body, waiting to get poked and triggered. And it's going to happen. And the best culprits to trigger it are children, because they don't know. They don't know your wounds. They don't know the social norms to follow. So they're going to say and do what they need to in the moment to help themselves. Fortunately, doesn't always go well for our wounds. So, welcome to your inner child, friends. You have just gone back in time and explored that piece of you that went unhealed. In some literature, there's different words for this. It is all arguably similar. However, people are going to differentiate depending on who you talk to. So like Eckhart Tolle, for example, he's not going to call it inner child. I think he calls it pain body. Different psychologists will call it the ego. Some people call it the wounded self. Some people call it the subconscious. These are different, but they're related. Picture it to me like cousins. They're all cousins, slightly different, depends who you talk to. The point is, they are all deeply connected to why you do what you do currently, right? They all still influence us. They're the little children inside running the spaceship or driving the bus when it comes to making decisions, especially when we're triggered. All right, here we go. So when your inner child is activated, so you've just discovered you have it, discovered why you have it the way you have it, you're no longer operating using higher levels of thinking. You are going to be falling back into old patterns and conditioning. Typically, we continue patterns that have been handed down before us. So we swear when we're young, we're never going to turn out like our parents. We're just not going to do it. And then before we know it, we're saying the same stuff our parents told us to children. We're like, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that like my mother. And we do this because it's already deep within us. And when something gets activated, that's what comes up. It's subconscious, it's a reaction. We don't even realize we're doing it. So what do we do about that? Here's another way you can notice it. If you're like, oh no, Sarah, I'm really not like my mother, that's fine. But your inner child is running the show at some point in your life. I guarantee it, because no one is living a monk-like lifestyle currently on this phone call that has no triggers whatsoever. You all are getting triggered on the daily. I know it because I nanny too, and I understand. I understand how it can be. So to know it's getting activated, there's some red flags to like kind of keep watch of. If you start judging others, if you have a fear of not being enough or being liked, if you have this desire to control the future or others, or if you can't accept the way someone is, right? You are all running then an inner child, which happens, you can see here in this photo, inner child is being triggered here, but he still is a child. So I'm going to argue he doesn't quite have all the wounds yet. So conscious parenting, and how does it wrap into this? Conscious parenting is this combination of Eastern philosophy, Western psych, to examine our responses, thoughts, and behaviors so we can connect deeper to ourselves and then others. You're going to see tonight, and I hope you notice that before we point fingers there, we're always pointing 3 fingers back. We are always looking at ourselves before we start looking at the children. Frankly, we don't look at the children much in this. We learn how to navigate ourselves to help the children. Why we should apply it. So as nannies or caregivers, we're committed to providing the best care on all levels for the children, right? So this is emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual. Conscious parenting helps protect the unique spirit of the child. It does a great way of preserving who these children are without tainting them with our own belief system or our own limits or however we think we need to be, right? It helps take that away to keep them clean of our problems, our wounds. Not that we have problems, but we don't want to pass on to children what we're working on overcoming ourselves. It's important to remember too that as caregivers, we are provided the privilege to work with these children during key points in their life where they are greatly influenced by us and how to process and identify. So we have a responsibility to do right by them and to help them the best way we can. What we say and do with these kids is going to leave a lasting impact, especially if we are with them during these really early years of life or we're with them extended amounts of times. The influence we have is very large, and we don't want to be one of the reasons one day these kids go to therapy. Like if they go, it's not on us. We have to do our part to make sure they don't need it for anything we have done with them or any way we've communicated with them. All right. How does inner child impact child care? So if the inner child is triggered in a kid we worked with, they will become defensive, hostile, depressed, anxious, worried, resistant. So some of this has to do with like child development. Some of our kids are in those stages of development where they're going to be triggered because the brain is not fully developed yet and they cannot balance certain emotions the way an adult can. But for adults and caregivers, when we're triggered, we become frustrated, depressed, hopeless. We can lack compassion, maybe, for the children and families we work with. And if we're experiencing any of those feelings, we need to know that our inner child is now in the driver's seat. They have taken over and need support. It's important to remember as well that if you're having any of these feelings, it is not it's not now a spot to criticize yourself that you feel depressed or you feel anxious. It's not now you are in trouble. It's no, you just need support. And we all need support in different ways. It's a wonderful and beautiful thing to notice that you're feeling those things in the first place, because not everyone has the awareness to even sense they are feeling anxious. Okay, so what are we going to do if we see inner child is activated in ourselves, or if we see it's activated in the children we work with? So as far as we go, and I'm going to keep coming to us first because we're the ones we have to look at, there are a couple different ways we can do this. Awareness and meditation is huge. In conscious parenting, meditation is mentioned a lot as one of the ways to support our own personal growth. I'm a big advocate of meditation. I'm aware not everyone feels comfortable meditating, and it can be a daunting and challenging thing to do. However, there are ways to slowly inch into this and get comfortable. If you imagine meditation like a pool, it is wrong to assume you could possibly jump into the 8 feet after never swimming in your life and be comfortable like Michael Phelps. No, I don't want that for you. I want you to dip your toe in the baby end and just be able to stand there for a minute. So with that, earlier tonight, we just did 15 seconds of quiet, right? And you just followed me telling you when to breathe. That was meditating, right? Very tiny amount, but that was meditation. So you've already done it in some capacity. I encourage you to find time in your day to meditate. There's different forms, different styles. You could take a book or a class or podcast, and it's a whole world in itself. It's important you find one that resonates with you and feels good to you. Maybe walking meditation's your thing. Maybe while you have tea in the morning or coffee in the morning, you're just breathing and being quiet for a minute, and that's your meditation. Or maybe you feel good at night doing a 20-minute traditional meditation. Whatever it is, I encourage you to explore it. I'm going to share 2 resources that I recommend to get into meditation that I think are really approachable and easy and feel good. They're not intimidating. They're not super, super challenging, but they are great. The other one is awareness. So this is why meditation is brought up in conscious parenting. It's not just because we like it and all the research shows it's great for you, which it does, but meditation gets you quiet and still enough to notice where your thoughts are. And it's beautiful because it takes little snapshots of what's going on in your mind. And it's not a time to judge yourself, again, but it is a time to notice if all of your thoughts and worry, let's say, are about the future, or about COVID or whatever, right? We're trying to trace where your thoughts go so that you can see what areas you need to support yourself. If we wait for the inner child to show us what areas need healing, it will, and it won't be cute. It won't be as pretty as if we just sat still for a moment and noticed a feeling come up. Does that make sense so far? Are we all cool? Wonderful. All right, next, dropping into your heart. This is important and it sounds a little like vague and generic, but when we're working with others or when we are triggered, it's important to get out of the head and come back down into the heart, whatever that might mean for you. For some of us, that's like a spiritual approach. For others, it's like a religious thing. And even some, it is more on the physical plane, and that is also fine. Whatever it is, drop back into your heart and get out of your head for a moment. The last box, one of my favorites, is personal support and growth. I can't stress it enough how important it is that as caregivers, we have support systems in place for ourselves. If we support children all day, we need to have people supporting us too. And this may look like a partner or friends or family, or it may look like a community you're a part of, a network that you run in. It could be a group of friends you text who are just nannies, and you all have calls once a month and you just kind of vent about what's going on. Or even step above all this that I really like, you work with a coach or a therapist or someone to help hold a mirror up to you and show you these areas and how to help support them. Without looking at this column, I think it's really difficult as caregivers for us to continue growing with our children if we never look in the mirror and ask ourselves how we can grow with them. This can also take the form of podcasts, books, courses, anything that's going to keep expanding you. You're already here tonight. You're already showing me you care about the third box. You're already doing one of the things, and I would say keep doing that. It is so beneficial. All right. The next part, how do we support children when they're an inner child? So first things first, with kids, we need to remember that kids cannot be comforted or process anything until the limbic system is calmed down. If it's not calmed down, there's nothing getting into them. We can't rationalize with a child who is triggered by something going on. So to calm down children or to remind us of what's happening when children are throwing tantrums or upset or being what we would consider unreasonable, like they are just not hearing what we're saying or being able to process, or maybe their response seems out of proportion with what's going on. Dan Siegel has a great hand model of the brain, and it is so helpful. So I encourage you to make a fist wherever you are. This fist is representing the brain. This part is going to be our prefrontal cortex. So this is what's considered higher thinking and higher emotionings. This is like reasoning and processing and logic. It's the part that makes us more human than animal, so they say. The part underneath, right? So this, your wrist, that's your brainstem. And then the thumb is the amygdala. So the amygdala and the brainstem and this area, the lower brain as they call it, this is the reptilian brain. It's basically functioning. So it's eating, drinking, anything bodily functioning happening, primitive stuff here, that's occurring in this lower half of the brain. When a child is triggered, what happens is the amygdala gets engaged. And so when someone says you flip your lid, what's happening is your prefrontal cortex, this higher area, is going up like this. It is no longer doing any of the thinking for us. We're all in this lower area of the brain, which means we can't calm down. We can't be reasoned with. We can't hear what people are saying to us because lower functioning is operating right now. This is a survival technique that we all have, and it serves a purpose. However, if your child's doing it at the grocery store with you or before you get in the van to go to carpool, it's not ideal that they are now in reptilian brain and you're trying to logic and reason with them. Chances are they will not, and you've probably experienced this. And so at that point, you kind of just have to be like, okay, like, let's go, like, you have to almost reason with them, which can be really, really difficult. So that's just a reminder that when children are triggered, you guys probably know this, you can't reason with them, but it's because their brain is truly not accessing anymore these parts that do the higher functioning for them. You will see adults also, I think, experience this. So when children are feeling inner child and they've calmed down so that amygdala is starting to get engaged, and I'm going to put a resource in that really talks more about the brain and the different parts of it and how we can help children integrate the entire brain. Because as they're developing, they're learning to use both hemispheres, they're learning how to use the top and the bottom, and that can be a process in itself. It's important with kids to make sure they feel like they are seen, they are heard, they are understood, and they are loved. So this means, as far as conscious parenting goes, that we have to validate their experience as they perceive it. So if they come to us and say that their brother hit them, for example, it's not creating connection to be like, I don't think your brother would do that. Or, well, to say, I'm sure your brother didn't mean to, it must have been an accident. Right? All these things are dismissing the child's feelings. And so in that moment, you want to validate what they're going through. Be like, your brother hit you, right? All you have to do is repeat back what they said, or even say, tell me more about that. You want to make sure that they know you understand what they are saying and you can empathize. Even if you think what they're saying is irrational and not necessary and just not appropriate for their age, you need to make sure that you show them you get it, you've been there, and you would feel the same way. Because without that, kids are going to shut down and they are not going to think that what they feel is accurate. One of the worst things we can do for kids is to try to convince them how they actually feel. Because then we create adults who can't really tap into their feelings and can't express their feelings, and they go around just being emotionally unavailable and not in tune with what's going on inside. I think it's a gift to keep giving our kids the ability to speak about how they're actually doing and letting them know that's okay, that's normal, and we understand it. Things to remember. So, this is a hard concept, and we learn about it in conscious parenting, usually not in terms of children, but adults. So, when individuals are triggered, they're no longer in their authentic adult self. So, although someone may be 40, for example, if they're triggered, we need to address the age they're expressing rather than the chronological age. So, if, let's say, your mother or mother-in-law is being very unreasonable and difficult about something and not at all talking to you like an adult, you need to remind yourself that's because she's not coming from an adult place. She's truly coming from that chronological age that she's expressing and got stuck in, or the developmental age. Most people, sadly, are operating in age ranges like 4 to 12 at different points. So when someone's really upset or angry or yelling at you for something, it's more than likely like this young part of their childhood coming out and wanting to take control and establish authority. And you have to remind yourself you're no longer negotiating or reasoning with an adult who is in their proper state of mind, and you have to let it go. You have to like just kind of let it roll off you. So, for example, I worked for someone who was very, very difficult, to put it nicely. This was not in nannying, this was like in the hospital system, and I had to remind myself daily that she was not operating from her chronological age. She was acting from a developmental age, where an inner wound was created, and that when she was rude to me or mean or said terrible things, like, that was not me, that was her. She was triggered, she needed support for her thing. I didn't have to offer that, but she clearly needed it, and it wasn't about me. that is something to remember throughout the rest of your life. So if you don't take anything away from this, please remember that you cannot rationalize with people who are not coming from like their adult place. If they're an inner child, you're not going to get anywhere telling so and so that they're being unreasonable, or that what you're saying makes sense. Like, they're just not there. Let's take politics, for example. Most people, when we talk about politics, they're not an adult self. They get very activated and very triggered, and things get personal and emotional, and you start seeing all these wounds show up for people, and they get defensive about stuff, or they get really greedy or rude, or in a place of fear. They've been triggered. Important to remember when trying to talk to people about political ideology or anything that you feel like is not so triggering, but it is. So scenarios. I would love it. I have two here, but I would love it if anyone felt comfortable sharing like a difficult experience you've had the past month or past year, or any experience in general with one of your kids. And we are just going to kind of break apart like a conscious parenting response to this, or approach, or way to think about it. So if you want to use the chat to share any difficult time you've had, or someone you know has had, and I have plenty of stories I can always use too, but I would love to help someone with like a real time situation. If you guys think of one, let me know. I'm going to go over one. So these are ones that have actually happened to me at some point with the kids I've worked with. I think we're going to use the second one because that one seems to be the most prevalent lately. So in this scenario, which happens regularly, I have 3 children under the age of 8 that all have to go to school at the same time. We all have to get in the van, and in doing that, everyone needs to be dressed, have breakfast, teeth brushed, hair brushed, the works. It is not uncommon when this happens for one of the children to go awry, things go amok, dogs are always barking. I have one kid running around like halfway dressed, another one like with his shirt just over his head. Someone's in the mirror brushing her hair, and then someone's throwing a hairbrush. Like, it's always chaos, I would say, like a good majority of the time. In these scenarios, it's super common to get triggered, or to get angry, or to feel like frustrated or exhausted or overwhelmed, because I feel often I can be telling them what we need to do, what's happening, and people have their own agendas. Understandably, they have their own things they want to work on that morning or not do, and I don't really blame them. So if you have a scenario like this where your children are not listening to what you're saying, you have somewhere you gotta be, something you gotta do, the best thing you can do is step out of the room for a moment and breathe, or stay in the room and calm yourself down if the child is too young. So I think breathing is one of the best ways. My favorite breath is 20-80, and I'll show you guys that later tonight. But essentially, if your children in the care are just doing their thing and not listening, you have to go inward first. You cannot start delegating or having consequences for people until you yourself feel like you are calmed down, under control, and can respond to everyone really calmly and rationally, or at least with some kind of like grip on your sanity. You should not just respond, because typically when we just react like that to children, it's not kind, it's not pretty, we don't like it, we regret what we say. Yay. All right, Mary, let's see. You nanny for 2. Okay, so this baby is 2.5. He refuses to get socks and shoes on before you leave. His sister is usually ready for a car nap, is screaming. Okay, that's difficult. That's your morning lately, though. Okay, so little sister is screaming and crying, and the 3-year-old does not want socks and shoes. This happens. This happens even with like 6 and 7-year-olds, as I'm seeing right now. I think in this moment, Mary, again, conscious parenting, we're not going to look at the kids as much as most of us are trained to look at the kids, which is funny. Mary, I don't know you. This is going to feel like the hot seat, but bear with me. I'm not going to say anything to you I wouldn't say to myself. And I say this all with love for everyone right now. So, in this situation, one of the best things you can do, obviously, is like breathe and calm yourself down. But the next is to notice any judgments you may be placing on both children during this time. So, if while this is all happening, you yourself are saying, "Oh my God, this little kid is such a brat. I can't believe he will not put his socks and shoes on. Like, what is wrong with him?" Whatever awful thought, awful or not awful, you're having about him, just notice it to see where you're judging him. Same for the baby. If you're like, she is such a difficult baby or she is so fussy, you want to notice those judgments first to like pause them. Because ideally, the best place we can be during this kind of situation or any situation is really neutral and unfazed and unbothered by it. So, in a perfect world, if the child, the 2.5-year-old, is not doing socks and shoes, if you've really done the work, and I'm not saying I even am at this place by any means, it won't bother you. The baby crying won't bother you. Yes, you'll be sad that she is distressed, but you won't be triggered by her, and you won't by him either. Instead, with his situation, you may process it as, wow, like he is so independent. This kid, like, he cannot be tamed. Like, he cannot be influenced by others. Like, he's really resilient. He's sticking to what he wants to do and he is not going to give it up, which is normal too for his age, but also I think really cute on his personality, but so difficult for you, I'm sure. Honestly, though, Mary, it's take away any judgments you have, be there in the present moment with him, help him process it as it's going on. And I think, too, with him like starting earlier, the other thing conscious parenting really loves, and I don't know if this is true with all parenting styles, is negotiations. We are all about some negotiating. So if you're like socks and shoes need to be in that, be on, except when safety is involved. We negotiate except for safety. If socks and shoes need to be on the car before going for the day, one of the things you can say are like, okay, we have to have both on. So what do you want to do or what's the plan? And you kind of give him options. Either he puts on the left sock and left shoe and you do the right side for him, or he does both socks and you do both shoes, or he puts on socks and shoes on in the car, whatever it is. And I like it when they're old enough to communicate what they want, to have them give ideas first on a solution or negotiation, and then you kind of work from there based on what's going on. But ideally, you take away all judgments, you meet the kid where they are, you accept that that's where they are and that's how they process and that's where they want to be, and then you kind of negotiate and move forward with them. I hope that made sense and helped some, but it's really more about us than it is the kid. I would just see how you get triggered by that situation. If you get triggered by it, I know I get triggered with my kids during morning routine, but it's more so about my need to be on time and to be perfect. And I just have to let that go. So I start early with my kids, and the whole time I'm like, well, we make it to school and we make it. And some days it's just might not be on time, and that's okay. Like, that's the way it goes. And honestly, for these kids, they don't like being late. But the law of natural consequences, which is what conscious parenting likes, would say, hey, you don't get in the car on time, you're going to be late. 'Cause that's the way it works. Like, that's the way the world works. And with conscious parenting, anytime we can use natural consequences versus discipline, we do. We do not do discipline really much. We do consequences, and typically natural consequences. So, for example, if the kid forgets his jacket and doesn't bring it to school, then he's cold and he doesn't forget it. Sometimes we would bring it the first time, but if they're constantly forgetting stuff, we don't take care of it for them. We need them to learn and have the natural consequence, which is great in terms of when things go wrong or when kids are having a difficult moment. You don't have to get creative on how to punish them or how to teach something. Like, typically what they've done is a lesson in itself in some way. For example, my kids last week were not listening to me. It was quite comical, and like how this all played out. They were fighting over a cardboard box to get in the box, and they are 7 and 8, and they didn't listen when I told them to stop, and then they tumbled in to a side table, and it fell over with a plant in it, and the vase broke, and it was a giant mess. So the punishment didn't happen, but the natural consequence was no one got to start homework yet, and they all wanted to get it done before their music lessons that day, and they had to help clean up the mess. So it wasn't like you each go to your room. It was, nope, one of you get a dustpan, one of you get a vacuum. And then I had to monitor and help them, of course, for safety, because we had glass and I didn't want anyone getting hurt. But their response was, oh, mom says we're not allowed to clean up stuff like that. Yes, I bet your mother does say that. However, I know that if your mother keeps taking care of your messes, you are not going to be more careful or considerate or even feel slightly responsible for the mess you've made. I don't say all this, but this is how I'm processing it. So I'm going to have to help you clean it up, because you need to see your actions have consequences, and this is the consequence. You have to clean up. The other big thing with conscious parenting is we help teach them how to remedy and repair relationships. So for example, in that scenario where they broke their mother's vase, the final step of that whole process was to apologize to their mom, which was good, because otherwise they weren't going to say sorry or acknowledge it happened. And it's important. Same when kids are arguing or fighting with each other, we want to help show them how to repair a relationship from harm afterwards, which is something I don't always see talked about. Mary. Guys, I love these real life scenarios. I find them so helpful. You're so welcome, Mary. Yeah, let me know how it goes tomorrow, okay? And if not, you can shoot me an email and I'll help you out with it. All right, let's see. Maddie, you have kids 3 and 5, and they've been fighting a lot. Yep. They often say you're not playing with me enough, or you play with so-and-so more. However, we all 3 play together constantly. They just want independent play. But unfortunately, I'm only one person, and only my 5-year-old will play independently. The 3-year-old has a meltdown if we all 3 play something that is not what he had in mind. You don't want them to feel that way. Okay, so I want to make sure I understand the scenario right. The 5-year-old will play by himself. The 3-year-old wants to do everything together, right? But is not happy if it is not their way. Yes, okay. When you say the 5-year-old will play independently, do you mean by himself, or with you as well? Like, do they want time alone, or they want independent time with Maddie? Oh, by himself. Good. Okay. Okay, so the ultimate problem then is they want independent time with me, but he can't do that. Okay. So what's your biggest problem with this, or what's the ultimate goal? Like for the 3-year-old not to have a meltdown when you're all together? Okay, for the 3-year-old not to. Okay. So the 3-year-old is like still in the part of like the development where or how to support them in feeling the way. Yeah. So I would recommend The Whole Brain Child by Dr. Dan Siegel. That age group is still trying to figure out how to take emotions and put it into words. So the child is obviously upset and disappointed that they can't play with you or can't play it a certain way and don't like how it's going, and it's coming out in the form of a tantrum because they can't verbalize yet and like figure out how to express it. I think in that moment there's obviously so many things to do for them, but first would be like supporting yourself. Where do you get bothered and triggered and uncomfortable? Like, are you uncomfortable that he doesn't like playing with everyone? And if so, why does that make you uncomfortable? Do you feel bad you're disappointing him? Do you feel bad he's struggling? I would see how you process it and then kind of work on that first and then go to the kids. So for example, if you feel really bad that the child is having a meltdown and you're like, oh, this is so sad, or maybe you're annoyed. Maybe you're like, oh my God, this is the 5th meltdown in like 10 minutes. You need to look at that and any judgment you're having for the kid. So the first scenario, if you feel bad for him, to examine, why do you feel bad that a child processing in a typical way is a bad thing? Because difficulties and conflict and not getting your way, all these things the kid's going through, unfortunately, that's very normal. That's life. And so we can't kind of fall trap, so to speak, to their pain, and we can't rescue them from it. We have to accept they're in the pain and just hold space for them and help them through it, versus feeling like, oh my God, stop the pain. I'm a nanny. They can't cry on my watch. Like, I need to make them happy. The parents want them happy. Like, that's ultimately not ideal here. That is not, our goal is not to make our kids happy. Our goal is to help our kids process their emotions and show them that they can support themselves through difficult times, which I know can be really hard for many of us to watch anyone uncomfortable. So if that's happening, that's how you would do that. But if you're getting angry at the kid for having these meltdowns, you want to look at yourself again and be like, why am I judging this child? Do I judge myself for having big feelings? Do I judge others for having big emotions? Because it's something within us that's gotten triggered, and that's why we're upset at the kids. Once you've done that, once you've done those parts on yourself, that's when you can apply all the stuff that I know, which would have to do helping the kid take a pause for a moment or helping them breathe. When they're that young, I think one of the best things you can do is narrate the experience. Like, say you were playing Duck Duck Goose. You don't like Duck Duck Goose. You don't want to be playing Duck Duck Goose. Like, telling them what is happening as it's happening so that they can be like, yeah, you're right. That isn't what I like. And as you narrate it, you're helping the kid connect both parts of the brain to make sense of the experience. That age is still trying to figure out how to combine both sides of the brain. And one of the ways we can do that is by telling them what's happening so they can find words for it. So tell them what's happening, invite him to take a pause, tell him to go hit a pillow over here. Breathing can work, normalizing his experience, tell him you understand, tell him it happens. I think the other thing too is like, I have some of my kids will take turns who's doing what or who's picking the activity first, and that can really help. But it's all based on your group. I would first look how you respond to it though, because if you can stay really calm and if you can stay centered, how your kid's handling it doesn't really matter. It does matter, but it doesn't. Oh, Autumn, okay. Autumn, I see yours. I want it. I'm gonna pin it right here, and I'm gonna come back to it in like 5 minutes, okay? I want to run through some other information, and then I'm going to give it my full attention, okay? I just want to get through some stuff in case someone has to leave in 6 minutes. I need a few things to be with you as a tool. But again, everyone, I'm going to put in, let me see if I can do it right now in our chat. I'm going to put in a link, and if you give me your email address by that link, you will get a copy of this PowerPoint. You will receive extra resources from me, all the goods. I don't send spam. I don't send junk. I don't waste time. I will send you lots of stuff that I believe in and love. Okay, foundational beliefs. You've kind of heard me talk about this in some capacity tonight already, but these are a couple core ones. So we always look at ourselves before we look at the kids. We value connection over correction. I can't stress that enough. Children are complete. So we don't need to worry about them in terms of like, how are they going to handle the world? What are they going to do? Like, don't go into the future. Know this child came into this universe, into this earth, just as they were meant to. They have everything inside them they need to succeed, to thrive, to be who they're meant to be. All we have to do is help them discover and unfold that and be that. We don't have to worry about figuring it all out. This kid is capable. We just have to make sure we believe in them, that they can do it. There is no hierarchy among ages, professions, especially us and kids. We are not higher up than the children we work with. We're all on the same level of learning from one another. You are not supposed to be right. It is not necessary that you are right. It is ridiculous to think you can always be right or should be right. As an adult, caregiver, parent, doesn't matter. It's completely unnecessary. Just take that off yourself. Take that off yourself. You're never going to be perfect. You're not supposed to be perfect. I wouldn't want you if you were perfect. Your kids aren't perfect, so show them it's okay to not be. Why do we bring this into childcare? So again, this is kind of echoing our whole theme. We have really invaluable opportunities with these kids during deep periods of transformation and growth during valuable moments. If we want them to be untethered and unrestricted, we have to go within first because it's our own fear that's hindering their growth and locking them in different places. Okay, burnout. This is a quick overview of burnout, but it is important, and I'm going to teach you the stress cycle in like 60 seconds, which will be amazing and you'll never forget it. So, overview. Burnout is described, this is like an old view of it, I think it's still applicable though. Emotional exhaustion, depersonalization, decreased sense of accomplishment. This is all signs someone may be experiencing it. If you feel it, you are not alone. 20 to 30% of teachers have it, and up to 15% of medical professionals experience burnout and empathy fatigue. Parents are starting to be researched more. I don't know how much research has been done on caregivers, but obviously the numbers would be high if these numbers are high and parents' numbers are high. Overall, to know, stressors activate the stress response. Stress is your neurological and physiological response to said stressors. The lion. So, we experience stress as part of an evolutionary technique, evolutionary, what's the word I want here? It helps keep you alive. I lost my word. So way back when, I want you to imagine you were like in a field and all of a sudden you see a lion. Upon seeing this lion, you go running to get away from the lion. You find a friend's house and you run inside and you slam the door shut and the lion can't get in, right? After that, stress cycle has finished. Once you're in the house with your friend, after a few minutes, you eventually calm down, the lion has moved on, and you feel better, right? That's your stress response. That is the stress cycle in a cute little image. Most of us think the stress cycle got completed because we were safely in a friend's house and the door got shut. That is not what completed the cycle. The cycle got completed because you ran like hell from the lion. That is the only reason it got completed, okay? So if we apply this to modern day, we don't have lions anymore chasing us. We have things far worse, like bills and politics and global warming and racism and things that are invisible, that are constantly stressing us in different ways and hurting our health. So how do we complete the stress cycle if we can't see the lions that are chasing all of us? And with the lion, it's important to remember, the lion was a one-time incident. Maybe we saw a lion once a month and that was like the thing based on where we lived, but the lion didn't stalk us for days on end. Currently, most people are going through chronic stress. So this stress cycle is never completing, but you have to complete it, my friends. You must complete it in order to feel better. So completing the cycle in 21st century way. Physical activity, number one way to break the stress cycle. So again, with the lion, it was the running that completed the cycle, not getting in the safe house. So your body does not recognize that you are stressed from work versus you're stressed from a lion. All it knows is you're stressed. So if you go home and then you run a mile or you dance in your room for 20 minutes, you're helping complete the cycle. It doesn't know what was stressing you. All it knows is that physical exercise helped complete it. Breathing is another huge way to complete it. Positive social interaction is big. So having networks, having communities, social support is one of the number one indicators of longevity and health overall. So if we want to know how long someone's going to live or how healthy they're going to be, we typically go and we look at their social network and social support. Laughter. And I mean real laughter, not the fake stuff. That doesn't do anything for anyone. You need genuine, like deep belly, ugly laughter. Affection, physical affection. So a 20-second hug reduces your stress levels and completes the cycle. If your kids you nanny like hugs and that is something you do with them and you're stressed and they're stressed, you can offer a hug. It will help both of you. Crying is also a way to release it. I know not all of us feel comfortable crying. Maybe that wasn't a safe thing to do growing up or an acceptable thing to do in our society or culture or family. It is a great way to complete that stress cycle. It will help move everything out and tell your body the stressor has passed. Creative expression is also something. So if you feel like writing or drawing or painting, whatever it is, know that that is helping complete your cycle. All of these go in more depth. And again, the resources I'm going to send you, one of the books I'm going to recommend is called Burnout. And it's a book all about the stress cycle. It's really wonderful and super helpful as a caregiver, as a friend, as a woman, as really anyone right now. These are other ways, these are my ways to avoid burnout and heal it. So one is detaching from your work. To remember that you are not your work. You are not your job. You are not the children you work with. You are not even the quality of care you provide. You are something outside of all of that. You are a being. You are an essence. You are a spirit. You are a soul, completely detached from that. That is something you do. It is not who you are. So remind yourself to let it go and not put it in your identity super close. If you do that, you're inviting it to cause havoc on your life, depending on if it's good or if it's bad that day. Accept the consciousness of everyone. So if you're working for a family that operates in a different mindset than you do, you have to accept that's where they're at and just respond accordingly. It doesn't mean you necessarily like it, but you have to come to terms with that's the way they are. How can you show up? What can you do even if they're that way? Again, complete the stress cycle daily, guys. Where most of us are under chronic stress, so 30 minutes of something completing that cycle is a great thing to do. Create boundaries. Most of us are not comfortable doing this. We're either givers or empaths or people who just love to be perfectionists or people pleasers. It's like encoded in the DNA. So boundaries are important and may not feel good, but will help you. So if you cannot work late that night, you need to say you can't work late. If they ask you to work over the weekend and you don't want to, you say you cannot. You don't try to just do it to like be more available or be a better employee. Like you need to put your health first, because if you start getting resentful and bitter and burn out, you're no good to anyone, yourself included. And that will not change how they feel about you if you say no to helping out on a weekend. There's always someone else who can cover and would be happy for the hours or to work with the children. My favorite, anytime I'm feeling stressed or burnt out, is to enter a period of play with the kids. So if you are feeling like we're all going a little nuts and you're just about to scream your head off, and they are too, I encourage you to find something you all love to do and do it together. So if you love painting, then get out all the paint and have fun together. Or if there's a game they love to play and you don't hate it, play that with them. If you have an interest, teach them about the thing you're interested in. Kids love diving into new things that you're passionate about and they're passionate about. So find ways to incorporate stuff you love into the kid experience. So for example, with my kids, we talk about horoscopes a lot. We talk about astrology, we talk about crystals, we talk about spirit animals, we talk about meditation. Like they just go into that stuff with me because that's my interest and I make it applicable to their experiences. And they find it really fun and fascinating. And we do meditations on the way to car, like on the way to school. I have everyone close their eyes and they have to see what animal they see in their third eye or in their mind's eye. And I don't use those words with the kids, but I just have them close their eyes, imagine a field, and have an animal walk to them. And then I ask them what animal they saw. They each share what animal they saw, and then we dive into how that animal could support them that day. And it's really cute and fun to hear how the kids think the jaguar will help them that day, or the hawk, or the donkey. And then the rest of the day, they remember that they can use that animal to support them, and they remember how they embody that animal in some way. Again, this is with 6-year-olds. Like a 6-year-old is understanding this concept, and I know younger kids do too. That's a personal interest of mine, not something you have to do, but I invite you to bring in your interests to the work with the kids. Okay, these are my favorite resources. I'm going to share them and I'm going to review instead what someone wrote in the chat. These resources, though, will be sent to you if you enter in your email to that link. Hopefully it worked. If it did not work, please let me know. Really quickly, though, you'll see a section in this PowerPoint. One is on the mind. So my favorite podcasts for your mind, my favorite books for your mind and kids' minds. And then on the left, different tools and techniques I've used or things I recommend doing. EFT tapping, for example, underneath is tapping solution. That's an app you can get. It's free. Everything I'm going to recommend, not everything, most things I recommend are free or affordable, and they are convenient and quick, and I'm all about them. Then you'll see a page on how to support your body. My favorite resources here. You'll also see one for supporting your spirit. Some of my favorite exercises, 20-80 breathing, really quick, super simple. You won't forget this. You inhale for 20 seconds. Sorry, 2 seconds. 2 seconds. Do not inhale for 20. Inhale for 2 seconds. Hold it for 4. Exhale for 8. So it's called 20-80 because 20% of that breath is the inhale and 80% is the other. Most people think to calm their body down, they need to take a really slow inhale. That is not true. You don't need a slow inhale. You need an inhale and a very, very slow exhale. It is the exhale that matters. So 20-80. Some takeaways. I'm going to be reading the chat. Let me see if I can help. Okay. Please let me know if that link did not work, guys. All right, let's see. So this is, and if you have to run off and leave, I totally understand. I appreciate you coming tonight. I'm going to answer Autumn's question and see if I can support anyone else with something they're going through right now. But if you have to run, go ahead. Hockey playoffs are tonight, and I'm a huge Carolina fan, so I'll be watching that right after this. The link works, yes. Okay. Autumn, I'm the nanny of an 18-month-old girl. She's securely attached to her parents, but experiencing a period of separation anxiety. While she's eager to see in the mornings, we struggle in moments when a parent is entering the living room throughout the day. A work from home parent is interrupting. It disrupts her mood and focus, especially when towards the end of the day, and often leads her to the idea that her parents are free to spend time with her when they're really trying to grab coffee and get back to work. I've practiced deep breaths with her for months, but she still struggles to accept this as part of our days and has lots of big feelings seeing her parents come and go or overhearing a work call in the other room. Okay, awesome. So Autumn, with this, more so than having her breathe, I want you breathing. I want you breathing during all of this. And then I think a great thing you can do is when she's feeling that way, I don't really want you trying to change how she feels. I want you narrating it. And then I want you to bring in a sheet of paper and a crayon, and I want you to color how she feels. Like, I want you to like bring attention to this feeling. So most of us, like when the kid is experiencing this, we're like, oh God, distract, like put on a TV show, like bring out a new toy. I'm going to say the opposite right now. I want you to take time on this. I want you to bring out some crayons, some colored pencils, whatever it is, paper, and I want you to have her show you how it feels. And she may just scribble, right? She may not have anything, and that's perfect. I want you her scribbling, or you can get pom-pom balls, and I want you to have her draw how she feels. Could be a sad face, whatever it is. You're going to help her put these feelings into creating something, into expressing it in a new way. And then you're going to try to like narrate for her what she's experiencing and help her articulate this. So you could say, oh, mom just walked through. Mom just walked through. I see you're really sad. You want to be with mom, and mom's working right now. This is so difficult. You feel really sad. You wish she was here. I miss her too. I totally understand. Do you want to draw about how you feel? What do you wish you could do with mom? And then when she draws, you can have her draw something to give to mom later. Like, mom isn't with us right now, but do you want to make something we can give mom? Or do you want to draw about a time you played with mom? Or let's talk about a moment you were with mom and had fun. Or let's bring out photos of you and mom to look at. Because in her mind, I think she's kind of going through this, like, I'm not going to see them again. Like, this is super anxious. This is super hard for me. And if she's picking up any of your anxiety during this, like if you're kind of bracing yourself every afternoon for this to happen, then on some level she is too. She's like, oh no, oh no, my nanny is upset, I'm upset, mom is leaving, like this doesn't make sense, it's difficult. So I would offer those ways to her to help her to process it and really narrate it for her, because she's at that great age where she's working on like making sense of it all. And I'm thinking too, like for her age, you could even, I don't know if she would understand. I'm trying to think like how she is at 18. Thinking about my cousin's 18-year-old right now and if he would get it. I think just narrating though the experience is going to be good, and photos and telling her you get it, and like you yourself breathing through. Yes. I hope that made some sense, Autumn. If I think of anything else for you, I would do that, but I would just notice any judgments you have about the child, um, and notice if um you could always go into like problem solving mode too, I guess, where like trying to find ways to like eliminate this in a way, like having her in a different area of the house during some time, during these times. I don't know if that's possible. It just depends. I'm sure you've already thought of that and managed it, but I think just holding space for her and being okay that she's not okay. That does not sound, I know, probably traditional, but I promise it's long term. Long term is a good thing. There's a link I'm gonna share in the resources, Autumn, too. You may have already read this book, but it's How to Talk So Children Will Listen and How to Listen So Children Will Talk. It's a really great one as well that I think will help. Oh yeah, awesome. She likes art. Use art. Use art to process. It's so therapeutic. That will help her a lot. Because then you can shift it, Autumn, to like she's struggling and her art will show that, and you shift her into how do you feel when mom is here, and you kind of shift it into this positive way to move her feelings, and you can say we're going to make something from mom, or finding a way to help her get her need met in that way. All right, thank you so much, everyone. This is just a reminder, we are all just characters in our children's stories. Some of us are temporary for a short time, and others of us are here for chapters. Whichever it is, we have to remember we're not critics or even teachers to them. We're just here to help hold space and help to them, for them to unfold and become who they already are in the best world possible that we can create for them. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat. You can shoot me an email as well. That link should work so that you are on my mailing list and I can communicate with you. You're going to receive a resource list, the PowerPoint, free teaching videos, updates if I do a certification course, which I think I will this summer. All the goods, you will be the first to know about it. If you have any questions, leave it here. Thank you so much for your evening or afternoon. I greatly appreciate it. If you have
Thank
any
you so
questions,
much. Oh,
you're welcome.
Sarah, it has been such a joy to hear from you. Thank you so much. I just feel like you gave us so much to think about, and I feel like we've all learned so much from you, and I'm really excited to check out the amazing resources that you've shared. And I just personally signed up for your newsletter as well because I'm excited to just learn more. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time to share all of this with our amazing audience. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Oh, I enjoyed it so much. I appreciate everyone hanging in there. I know it was long. I feel like we covered a lot, but I'm so glad you were all here. I welcome all questions, any feedback.
Yes.
Again, so many resources are coming your way. So this is like tip of the iceberg.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And for those folks that'll end up watching this later in our Summit Session Facebook group, we do post the recording of each session a couple days after the event. So for folks that are watching this later, just want to let you know that the resources that Sarah's talking about, you can find them. We'll share them on our wrap-up blog post. So you'll be able to sign up for the amazing newsletter that she's got and get all of those resources there. And I also just wanted to let you know that our next Summit Session is happening June 26th. We'll be talking about creating lifelong learners with Megan Foster. And I just want to say thank you so much again, Sarah, for your time. I feel like we all have just learned so much from you. And I feel like my brain is kind of just going now with all of these different things that I hadn't even thought of. So your perspective is so helpful and your experiences are so incredibly eye-opening. And I just really appreciate you sharing all that you did. So thank you.
Of course. Yes. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their evening, and we look forward to seeing you at the next summit session. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your week.